My fear is that we are Nicodemus, who knows the darkness a little more than we should. Who sleeps during the day, lest to have someone find out who we actually are. Jesus says to Nicodemus, it's an interesting conversation. Jesus says to Nicodemus, I tell you, it's only two people out there talking. I tell you, in the 11th verse, you will read, we speak of what we know and testify to what we have seen. And this is, I think, one of the saddest texts in the whole Bible. Yet, you do not receive our testimony. Jesus is talking to another side of the church. You've seen it, you've heard it, you've been saved by it. You've been told the holy story. You grew up going to Sunday school, you know it. Yet, you do not receive our testimony. Nicodemus says these words, and it was the last thing he said. How can these things be? And Nicodemus left that conversation and went out back into the darkness. See, it's not enough to just have a conversation. Jesus wants a choice. He puts you in a crisis of decision making. Will you or won't you? Do you or do you not? Are you or are you not? Speak, Nicodemus. Tell us where you stand right now, Nicodemus. Come on and be brave about this thing. Are you with us or are you not? And Nicodemus uses the word we too, and I'm going to tell you why. It's only two people, so why the plural? Why the plural? Because Nicodemus represented a group that was thriving in Johannine Christianity. In the Gospel of John, Nicodemus represented a group that were called secret Christians. They were undercover believers. And when Nicodemus, help me Holy Ghost, when Nicodemus was talking to Jesus, he was sent there by other secret Christians. The secret Christians gathered and said, we got to find out what the truth is, because we don't want to openly believe this thing and it not be true. We will lose our reputations and we will lose our status in society. So Nicodemus, you a rabbi, you go over there and find out the real deal. Nicodemus, we want you to go over there and figure out once and for all whether we should openly believe or whether we should not. Because we don't want to risk losing who we are if Jesus is wrong. And so they send Nicodemus over there, and Nicodemus left probably with no more than what he had when he came, because he wasn't willing to make a choice. He wasn't willing to come out in the day and accept the real deal. So Nicodemus would sit in the Sanhedrin council, and when Jesus would come up, they would say, have you seen what Jesus has been doing? What should we do with this? Nicodemus never said a word, but it was an opportunity to say, well, you know what? I believe in him. But to be safe, Nicodemus kept quiet. In the market square, when people were talking about whether this was the real deal or not, instead of Nicodemus says, I believe that he is, he kept quiet to keep safe. Because following Christ, there is no safety. Am I a soldier of the cross, a follower of the Lamb? Must I be carried to the skies on flowery beds of ease? No, there's a cross for everyone. And there's a cross for me. Nicodemus, what's the deal with you today? Are you a believer or are you just shucking and jiving? Are you a believer or are you one who's walking into the light? Are you a believer or are you living in darkness? And just because you got a flashlight doesn't mean you're in the light. Just because you got a little lamp that you carry around doesn't mean that you're in the light. But when you're in the light, everybody sees it. And when you're in the light, there is no mistake of who you are. And the kind of light that God gives, the darkness cannot overcome it. What a wonderful day it is to be in love for the first time. It's a wonderful experience. It's intense. When the sun is shining, you think it's just shining just for the two of you. Rainy days aren't that bad because you found a new love. Reminds me of a story of one who found a new love and they couldn't get enough of each other. They spent so much time together, and everywhere you saw one, you could kind of see the other. They hung out together and had a lot of fun. And after a while, the lover noticed some behavior changes. They would be out having dinner, and somebody would come and say, "Hey, how you doing?" but would never really introduce his partner. Never introduce his partner. But just talk to the friend and engage with the friends. And when the persons would leave, the partner would say, "Well, why didn't you introduce us? When am I going to meet the family?" It's a question that some try to avoid like the Holocaust. When am I going to meet the family? And so they drive over to the family house, and just as they're about to get out, she says to him, "You know what? Wait here, and I'll come back and get you." "Why aren't you parking in front of the house?" he says. "Well, I'm parking back here because, it's just a nice secluded spot, and I don't want to bring too much attention. So I'll park under this tree. Nobody know anything. Just wait here, and I'll come right back and get you." And that person goes and stays for an hour and 2 hours and 3 hours. And finally, he gets out the car, knocks on the door. Nobody opens it. Nobody lets him in. Still knocks on the door. Nobody lets him in, so he goes back in the car and waits. And finally, she comes out and says, "All right, I'm ready, but you didn't introduce me to your family. I'm beginning to think you don't want me to meet nobody you know. Are you ashamed? Is there something about me that you don't like? What's the deal?" "Oh, no, I just need to get a little closer to you before I bring you around." "Yeah, but we've been talking in this way for 2 years. And I have yet to meet anybody in your circle. When you go out with your friends, you do not invite me. When you go out to certain concerts and events on the weekend, you do not invite me. The only time we together, it's just when it's me and when it's you. In fact, I've given you the keys to my place, and you have not given me the keys to yours. In fact, now I think about it, you've not really even invited me that much in your home. I tell you where I work, you show up on my job. And when you need a favor, you don't mind finding me and asking me of what you need. But yet, I don't even know where you're working. What kind of friendship is this? I don't want to be a secret lover. I don't exist that way. I don't want to be hidden like a fire under a bush. I don't want to be tucked away. I don't want to be some kind of fire hydrant that you only use in emergencies. I want to know, am I somebody in your life or am I not? Person gets frustrated and says, look, just because we're friends, that doesn't mean you got to know everything about me. Just because we're friends, that doesn't mean you got to know all my friends. And just because we're friends, that doesn't mean you got to know where I work. And just because we're friends, that doesn't mean you even got to know where I go to church. Just because we're friends, that doesn't mean I got to take you everywhere you want me to take you. And then Jesus says, but I'm that kind of friend. There's not a friend like me. When you were down and out, I stood by your side. When you were in court, I served as your lawyer. When you were in a hospital, I took those tools and operated on you. When you went to church and laid out before God, I stepped up just in a nick of time and backed depression up from taking over your mind. And I backed up agony from taking over your spirit. And I backed up destruction from ruling your life. I don't know about you, but if you're going to be a friend of mine, and if you want to know me when the time is right, I don't have room for a secret lover. I want somebody to say my name, say my name, say my name. Tell me that you love me. Tell me that you honor me. Tell me that you worship me. You must be born again.